What's good, y'all? Hope everybody's well. Welcome back to the Onyx Report, Black Masculinist news for the day. Hope y'all like that new commercial. The beat, actually, the first two beats you heard, both custom put together by Green Gorilla himself. Shout out to the Green Gorilla. Go to the Green Gorilla channel, support him. And if you need a custom beat, holla at him. You know what I mean? Does beautiful work. I hope all is well. Hope you guys are good. Shout out to Hey Rue and Jade Cleveland. What's going on? A few brothers in here already. Tim, what's up? Dr. Manhattan. Hope y'all are good. It's going to be a quick one, but this is something that, especially when I was sick, people were hitting me up on left and right about some of the cases we've been seeing where Black men have been, for the most part, acting much like pit bulls, right? To be unleashed on people at a whim. So hit the like button, like, share, subscribe, join, and donate if you will. Support the channel. Y'all know what it is. You can support on Patreon. You can support on Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, and of course, right here on YouTube. So go ahead and support so that we can continue to bring you independent Black male thought. But at the end of the day, I raised this question about proxy pit bulls for a reason. Some call them simp enforcers. There's all kind of different names, really kind of ridiculing them. But, I'm interested in kind of approaching this in a slightly different way. But there are multiple cases of this lately that I think, require some reflection on our part. Right now, the first one is probably the most famous. We've all been made aware of this over the last, X amount of time. We've heard this over and over again. And I think it became much like what Jada has a tendency to do. She became the face of this. For the most part, the famous Will Smith, Chris Rock slap, right? Where you have Jada looking at a laughing Will Smith and glancing him a look of disapproval, from which he immediately jumps up and smacks Chris Rock, right? Shout out to Shadow Dog. Appreciate the support. And many people didn't know how to really take this. So, for the most part, first I heard a downplaying of Jada's role. And of course, the focus on Will, and all of that was warranted. And I don't take anything away from men being responsible for their own actions. That's one of the things we're going to talk about in the midst of the cases we're going to look at, because we need to. But part of what we also have to understand is in the last several decades, starting with Generation X, we're the generation raised more by single parents than any other. And I would argue, since only 2 to 4% of those single parents were fathers, we have an overwhelming kind of socialization on a mass level in the Black community that is geared toward female authority, most particularly with sons, right? We learn to prioritize, in many ways, female authority, and disapproval is responded to with intensity. And much of the reason for that is we're socialized that way. Now, there's a general kind of element of protecting women that I think is pretty consistent across many different cultures. But in the African-American community, the gender dynamics are tilted. And this goes to a lot of what I've been talking about for the last few years in terms of societal support for women, the deferment to women, and the really kind of artificial structuring of the Black community as a gynarchy. Right? Gynarchy where, in terms of all things related to authority and institutional support, it leans feminine, leans female. Men don't find themselves in a position to be supported institutionally. And I think when you pass these down for at least 3 or 4 generations, you reach a point where you have a society that pretty much defers to women in a very particular set of ways. So when you get to, shout out to Aaron, welcome to, the Onyx Brotherhood. Good to have you. When you get to a point, right, where you have a Black male who is acting much like what I call a proxy pit bull, meaning an attack dog, one of the most powerful attack dogs at that, sent to operate on behalf of a woman more often than not at her whim, right? This comes out of a larger cultural, institutional kind of framework. It's not just an individual situation. It's larger than that. Boys in our community over the last few decades have been socialized this way, and often doing so without much rational thought. So, Jada became the face of this because of the Will Smith incident, but there were others. I'm not going to play any videos on here because I've already had some videos taken down recently, so I'm trying to avoid that one in particular. So I'm not going to go that route, but nonetheless, this is one of the more popular ones that people were asking that I respond to, right? And so this one basically has to do with what a lot of you have seen, a lot of you have reached out to me about. This is a New York bodega, where you had a young woman who apparently could not afford or whatever. I think it was like a bag of chips or something to that effect. And she sent her boyfriend in to operate on her behalf. What's up, BGS? Good to see you in here, man. Hope everybody's well. Right. So he came in, and this is a brief clip of him operating on her behalf, right? In there to protect her honor. Although one could question how exactly her honor was violated, but I've seen various tapes of it, or recordings of it, I should say. But nothing that seems to warrant all of this. And then the big, blow up is that upon being attacked, he pulled out a knife and defended himself and killed this young brother and was arrested. And as of July 9th, the article that I've run across that, let's see if I can, okay. Let's go ahead and tell this computer what to put up there. There we go. So as of the July 9th, I'm not sure if this has changed since this article was posted. You all would probably know better than I would. But according to Daily News, or nydailynews.com, bodega worker freed on bail for fatal fight, recovering after stab wounds, became infected behind bars. Right? And they kind of go through it, show you the images there. Apparently, the girlfriend stabbed him in the arm. And while he was locked up, they didn't treat the arm, got infected. And that's all I know about it so far as that. This is not something I delved into to any great extent, because this is something most people knew better than I did. You guys started really hitting me up about this when I was still in bed for the most part. But you all kind of hit it. Many of you were talking about this. This is, it's CompuServes and things of that nature. And I'm saying you're absolutely right. But the angle to this is, there's more we got to look at. So this is one of the major cases. I'm not going to stay here long because this is one that a lot of people know about. I'm going to put the link to the article, if you don't know about it, in the chat or in the description box. Right. But here's another. So this is actually something you can find also on, what is this? ABC 7 New York. Looks like New York is getting a lot of attention these days. Right. And so it says, man says he is assaulted trying to help a woman being attacked at Grand Central. Now, this is not something where he was on a leash by the woman in question, which I think speaks to the larger issue I'm trying to point to with this, that, we ourselves can put ourselves on a leash that she doesn't even hold in our attempts to be quote unquote good men. Right. I think these videos are going to end up showing up anyway. So it says Midtown Manhattan, a man is recovering after a random attack at Grand Central. And he says he was physically assaulted after trying to step in to help a woman who was being verbally attacked. Right. And I think it best that if possible, you guys hear it from him. So bear with me. I told you guys before, I'm still trying to get my groove back. Well, I used to navigate these things a lot smoother. Let's see. You can hear
that random attack at Grand Central Terminal. The victim, recovering tonight, says he was physically attacked overnight after trying to step in to help a woman who was being verbally attacked. Well, tonight, that Good Samaritan telling his story only to Eyewitness News reporter Josh Einecker.
He has a shattered eye socket, a broken jaw, a giant gash in the back of his head.
It's not a way to live. I'm not liking the city, my city, and I grew up here. I'm born and raised.
And from his hospital bed tonight, Kenneth Haygood described the encounter he had early this morning while waiting for a 5 train home from work as he stood on the mezzanine at Grand Central.
And then I see a woman over there, very attractive, standing by herself. And then all of a sudden, this guy appears, and he starts yelling in her face and waving his arms in her face. And I'm like, yo, Like, what's going on? Is you getting ready to hit her or something?
He says he walked down the stairs to the platform, put himself between the man and the woman, and called 911.
It's like, where's he at? I said, he's coming at me right now. He's walking towards me with his, intent. And they said, where's he at now? I said, he's right in front of me.
Kenneth says he was speaking to dispatchers when the man attacked him. The next thing he knew, he was in an ambulance.
He has a cranial brain bleed, lacerations in his head, fractures all up and down his orbital bones.
Hours later, his sister Mia got a call that Kenneth was at Bellevue after the man had knocked him down and kicked him repeatedly in the head. Cops quickly caught the assailant, who they say has multiple prior arrests, including at least one assault. The woman didn't stick around.
My brother is a hero. I mean, he's paying for it right now, but I am very proud of the man that he was raised to be, and the fact that he saw a woman in distress.
Would you do it again?
Hell yeah, I'd do it again. Hell yeah. Because that could be my mother, my sister, anybody else. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that in my presence.
Now, in one vein, I want to say we're told black men don't protect. But, multiple men, including police officers, will tell you that one of the detriments to jumping in and trying to protect women is not only might you get hurt, but she might turn around and attack you as well. You got to be mindful of a couple different things. Now, in this particular story, she didn't. And she didn't attack him. She just walked away and left him there. Not even so much as a thank you, right? Right. Anyway, as far as that's concerned, this wasn't apparently a woman he knew. One of the things he said at the beginning of the interview was that he saw an attractive woman, which made me wonder if this was like beta game. Like, I'm wondering if she wasn't so attractive, would he have done the same thing? We'll assume for the moment that he would have, right? But we still have to be mindful about this pit bull kind of dynamic we tend to have. And the proxy component of it can work with a woman's intention or not when you're talking about the way black men have been socialized. Like I said, I'm not going to stay up here too long tonight, but there's a third one I want to introduce you to if you haven't seen it. And this one's a slightly different telling as well. Different situation. I'll let you listen to the interview and hear this one. Not so much the interview.
The mother of the gunman accused of murdering a 54-year-old man in a road rage shooting has been arrested for allegedly serving as the getaway driver. Amanda Washington was charged with hindering prosecution today in connection to the June 29th death of King Hua in Springfield Township. Investigators say Washington's 22-year-old son, Sadiq, fired several shots at Hua's vehicle because he was driving too slow and his mother was late for work. Amanda allegedly followed her son's commands to drive away following the incident. Sadiq has been charged with murder. The mother of the gunman accused of murdering a 54-year-old man in a... It
was only a few seconds, but basically, if you didn't catch what happened, right? This is the mother here. She's riding in the car with her son. There was an Asian guy they were driving near who was driving too slow. The mother, who was late for work, took to the side road and drove ahead of him. The son leaned out of the car, shot at the other guy who was driving too slow, and if I'm not mistaken, killed him. And so she's going to jail as well for being an accomplice. And one of the things they mentioned, of course, that you heard was that he forced her to continue driving. Right. Anyway, so here you have three separate cases. You have, not including, the Will Smith dynamic, but you have incidents here where on one level or another, you have men operating as pit bulls on behalf of women in particular. This desire to protect, this desire to be perceived as good men, and yet doing so to their own detriment, whether it means they've gotten killed, whether it means they've gotten beat up and hospitalized, or whether it means that they're going to jail for a really long time. And one of the things that I really wanted to impress upon us as black men who are dealing with this kind of idea that, one, we don't protect, and two, when we do protect, it's not regarded, it's not acknowledged. And three, sometimes the way we think about protection is just damn ridiculous. Here's the thing, there's a lot of ways to protect. And they don't always have to involve getting in somebody's face. One way to kind of, protect without even having to deal with that is to advise someone before a situation even happens. Sometimes advise them to not even be present to a situation. But this begs the question, Are you in a position? Are you in a dynamic, a relationship, whether it's a family member or an intimate relationship, where your word is enough for that person to follow in the interest of protection? One of the things that men are traditionally kept around for. Are you respected enough to have your word listened to? I read a short piece this morning on social media. A guy posted where he talked about a girlfriend, that he was with, and how he tried to keep her from going to a dangerous club. She went anyway, and she got assaulted, and told him about it afterwards because she lied about going when he told her he didn't want her to go. And he broke up with her, and he got all kinds of critique about it. But the point was, the reason I'm bringing that up was that his method for protecting her was actually telling her not to go someplace dangerous. And she dismissed everything he had to say. There are a lot of different forms of protection. And the question I have is, are you respected enough to have your word, even when it's given with the intent to protect, followed, listened to, absorbed, taken in, reflected upon, and appreciated? Are you in a position to extend that and have somebody take it in? Because if you're limited in your form of protection to physically putting hands on strangers at the slightest glance of a woman you're with, yeah, that's a recipe for a bad situation. And I'm tired of seeing brothers die, go to jail or whatever over bullshit. Now, a lot of this has to do, in my opinion, too, with what I call the husband-son dynamic, where on an intimate level, you have women pulling in men that they know they can control and using them in all kinds of ways. It could be anything from using them as a phallus to using them as unpaid protection, like, when it comes to this kind of proxy pit bullshit, or when it comes down to reproduction, you just want sperm. And you're not going to get that from a guy who is at your equal level or beyond. You're going to get that from someone you can control, somebody who is beneath you on the social ladder, somebody who you could get rid of and not lose much sleep. Those are the kind of dynamics I point to, because there's a power differential there that plays into how these relationships work. And more times than not, when I look at these kinds of cases, there's a power differential. Look at the last case. You had a mother and son who's generally in control. That's why I laughed when they said he made her keep going. Word. Okay. Those are the kind of things we got to look out for. And we really got to reflect on this. But at the end of the day, I want brothers to know, I don't have a problem with protecting someone that I care about. But my protection is, it comes at a cost. It comes at a cost. I mean, I built a lifestyle around being able to take care of my family, and I don't sacrifice that arbitrarily. So if you're in my care, respect is the first thing that should be paid. And respect, if anything, for the variety of ways that I protect, the way I move, the way I operate. If I'm doing this with your protection in mind, then I shouldn't have to argue with you about certain things. And I'm not just going to put myself in a position where I have to put, hands on somebody arbitrarily. That is the most extreme case. At the end of the day, men protect in a lot of different ways, long before it has to get to the point where somebody got to die. By one, making sure you're not in environments where that's even on the table. But, we know those things can happen. But how often do they really happen when you're actually in a position to analyze something before you do it, in terms of being able to decide where you want to be, what kind of space you want to be in, all that kind of jazz? We got to think preventively. But at the end of the day, you also got to be with somebody who's willing to follow your insight, who's willing to allow you to do the thing that they value you more for. Someone who's ideally not going to leave you in a puddle of your own blood and walk away as if you've done nothing to protect them. See, that bullshit needs to stop. Anyway, like I said, I'm not going to stay too long on this one. I really want to hear your thoughts, because you guys, know about more cases of this than I do. I'm interested in having you post links to videos in the comments that kind of fit into this framework. And I want to hear your thoughts about what you think this means and what could have been done differently. But the one thing I want to urge you to do is be very picky as to who deserves your energy, your attention, and your protection. Has she earned it? Does she demonstrate a respect for it? Is she willing to have you advise her in ways where protection is more subtle and nuanced? because it hasn't had, you actually haven't had to deal with the full-on emergency of the situation. You've prevented it by making decisions that offset that possibility. Do you have somebody in your care, family or intimate, who's willing to take that direction because they respect the role you play? And do you require that before you extend that protection? How many of you actually sit down and talk to someone about, look, this is what I do in a relationship, and if this is what you would like in your life, these are the rules. This is the cost of what I contribute. How many of you know that you can withdraw that and be very clear about it? This is why we were talking a few months ago about the emotional protection, right, that men extend. It is something that is valued, even if women don't say it. It's valued. And you will often be measured by it. How much emotional service, emotional labor do you provide? Well, in this instance, protection can be physical or it can be preventative. But at the end of the day, it's the same as emotional labor in the sense that it is a labor and a service that you provide for those you care about. But one thing we've never learned to do as men, especially in a community socialized to be female deferring, is to withdraw that protection and to articulate why. To actually have a sense of value that goes with those services that men provide in relationships. It's gotten to the point where even perfect strangers are damn near requiring that men extend those resources to them with no reflection and no thanks. So men are starting to adapt and respond in a variety of ways. And my suggestion to men who may want to listen to me about that is to require a certain degree of respect and reciprocation for those resources. And protection is a resource. And as the economy seems like it's going to continue going in a particular direction, the cost of that protection, or I should say the value of that protection, is going to go up, whether it's stated aloud or not. So I don't want you to lose a sense of what that's worth, regardless of what people say or don't say. Brothers, your life is incredibly important. I want you to honor it by being very careful who you share that with. And if she hasn't earned it, I don't have no problem with you not extending it. That's really all I wanted to get to at the end of the day. I want you guys to be careful and choose who you want to extend that protection to. Shout out to Mark Swift, long-term member. Appreciate you supporting the channel. Shout out to BGS for the support. Appreciate that. Jason, appreciate that support. Said he's a fool. She booked a fight and left him there. At the end of the day, that's what we're seeing. Jay Cleveland, appreciate that. Says we're all we got. Herbert Harris, appreciate the support. Says I'm glad I'm back. I'm still trying to get my sea legs back on YouTube. I'm still a little tired, but at the end of the day, man, protect yourself. Be mindful of your value. Do not let other people determine it for you, because they can't. You set the standard for your value and what you require in exchange for the resources you extend. Do not let anybody take them for granted. You better damn well not end up dead or in jail behind somebody who doesn't even appreciate what you're doing. But more importantly, if you're going to protect preventively, protect strategically, think first. And those are resources that are also not respected to the degree that they need to be, because that's actually the primary mode of men's protection. It comes long before things get physical. From where you all spend time to where you live to how you live, those are all things that men strategize years before a potential situation. So you're not in an environment where that is a constant worry, if you can help it. And even if you are in an environment that's dangerous, how do you navigate and live in that space? See, these are all protective measures that are planned out beforehand. But are you in a space where you're respected enough to where your judgment is appreciated? Hope you are. If you're not, consider bouncing. Peace, y'all.